Hello and welcome. In this video, I will show you how to create a widget that displays a range selector with a chart as the child. First, to use SfRangeSelector and SFCartesian chart in Flutter, we need to add these packages to our pubspec.yaml file, like this. Next, we use a sized box widget to create some vertical space. We use a text widget to display the title price range with a large and bold font style. We use another sized box widget to create some vertical space between the title and the range selector. We use a SfRangeSelector widget, which is a custom widget from the Syncfusion Flutter Charts package that provides a flexible and easy way to create a range selector with various features. We set the min property to _min, which is a variable that stores the minimum value of the range selector. We set the max property to _max, which is a variable that stores the maximum value of the range selector. We set the initial values property to _initial values, which is a variable that stores the initial values of the start and end thumbs of the range selector. We set the interval property to 750, which means the range selector will have labels at every 750 units. We set the show labels property to true, which means the range selector will display the labels for the values. We set the number format property to number format $, which means the range selector will format the values with a $sign. We set the drag mode property to slider drag mode, both, which means the range selector will allow dragging both the start and end thumbs as well as the selection region. In child, we create a container widget, which will contain the chart that we want to display inside the range selector. We set the height of the container to 50 pixels, which will define the height of the range selector. The child of the container is a SfCartesian chart widget, which is another custom widget from the Syncfusion Flutter Charts package that provides a flexible and easy way to create a Cartesian chart with various features. We set the plot area border width property to 0, which means the chart will have no border around the plot area. We set the margin property to edge insets all as 0, which means the chart will have no margin around it. We set the primary x-axis property to a numeric axis widget, which will define the x-axis of the chart as a numeric axis. We set the isVisible property to false, which means the x-axis will not be visible on the chart. We set the primary y-axis property to a numeric axis widget, which will define the y-axis of the chart as a numeric axis. We set the isVisible property to false, which means the y-axis will not be visible on the chart. We set the maximum property to 5, which means the y-axis will have a maximum value of 5. We set the series property to a list of spline area series widgets, which will define the series of the chart as spline area series. We add one spline area series widget, which will display a smooth curve that fills the area below it with a color. We set the color property to colors.gray, shade 300, which will be the color of the area below the curve. We set the data source property to chart data, which is a variable that stores the data for the chart. We set the xValueMapper property to a function that takes a data object and an index as parameters and returns the x value of the data point. The data class is a custom class that stores the x and y values of the data point. We set the yValueMapper property to a function that takes a data object and an index as parameters and returns the y value of the data point. Next, we add SfRangeSelector theme widget, which is a custom widget from the Syncfusion Flutter Charts package that provides a way to customize the appearance of the range selector. We set the data property to a SfRangeSelector theme data widget, which will define the theme data for the range selector. We set the active label style property to a text style widget, which will customize the appearance of the labels when they are active. We set the color to black, the font size to 16, and the font weight to bold. We set the inactive label style property to a text style widget, which will customize the appearance of the labels when they are inactive. We set the color to gray, shade 300, the font size to 16, and the font weight to bold. We set the active track color property to black, which will be the color of the track when it is active. We set the inactive track color property to gray, shade 300, which will be the color of the track when it is inactive. We set the inactive region color property to white, which will be the color of the region outside the track when it is inactive. We set the thumb color property to white, which will be the color of the thumbs. We set the thumb stroke width property to 3, which will be the width of the stroke around the thumbs. We set the thumb stroke color property to black, which will be the color of the stroke around the thumbs. Next, we use a sized box widget to create some vertical space. We use a text widget to display the title Sort By with a large and bold font style. We use another sized box widget to create some vertical space between the title and the list. We use a FittedBox widget to wrap the list and make sure it fits within the available space. The child of the FittedBox widget is a wrap widget, which will display the choice chips in a flexible layout that wraps to the next line if there is not enough space. We set the spacing to 8 pixels, which will create some horizontal space between the choice chips. The sort by list is a variable that stores the names of the options for sorting. ToList method to convert the mapped iterable to a list of widgets that can be used as the children of the wrap widget. For each category in the sort by list, you return a choice chip widget, which will display the category name as a label and a check mark as an indicator of selection. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.